All right, let's get into the meat of the matter here tonight. Tonight we're talking about the Millionaire's Playbook, building generational wealth and buy and hold real estate. That's the subject matter here for tonight. Okay, so this is not consulting. This is public education. It is your responsibility to take the information I'm sharing tonight and appropriately apply it to your business. I can consult with you, but that's usually on a one-on-one. So you have some information about me in the flyers, feel free to contact me, and I'd love to be able to talk about your specific situation. However, tonight, this is broad brush, and it's up to you to apply the information correctly. That's the disclaimer. Many of us here tonight is because we want to grow this real estate thing. Real estate has the marvelous opportunity to be able to grow your wealth for your family, to provide income, greater income for your budget, and also to take you into millionaire status. So we're talking about the playbook here, particularly with buy and hold tonight. So we're going to be talking primarily about the strategy of buy and hold to increase your wealth for you, your family lineage, your church, and your community. So it's the subject matter here tonight. And the core thesis is this: buy and hold is the strategy that creates more millionaires than any other real estate strategy. I can confidently say that. I'm also going to take it one step further. I think this is the strategy that has created more millionaires than any other path. That's my personal opinion. And I'll show you why, and I'll tell you why. It's primarily for those four engines that we're going to talk about tonight that produces income and wealth for you. And then when you multiply that by time, it is an unbeatable strategy. So before we go further tonight, let's take care of the elephant in the room. Many of you in the room have no problem with growing your wealth. Some people may have a little problem with that. So let's take care of the elephant right now. Let's go all the way back to John Wesley. This is a man from the 1700s. He's an English minister and theologian. And because of his efforts and because of his theology, because of his teaching, because of the small groups that he led, he founded most of the Methodist denominations, such as the Methodist Episcopal Church, United Methodist Church, African Methodist Episcopal, AMEs. He even influenced holiness churches and the Pentecostal denominations as well. John Wesley. He was a very disciplined leader, also a very powerful preacher. He preached about personal holiness, but he went beyond that. He talked a lot about stewardship and social responsibility. He got the scriptures off of the page, and got it out of the hearts of people into action. What are you going to do with all this love that you have? Why don't you? In fact, he's one of the guys that said you should grow your wealth, you should manage it well, you should become an extravagant giver. You should also want to do good in society. And I love this guy because I have the same philosophy. So I'm pretty much starting with John Wesley and his thinking. He taught that wealth itself is not evil. And that was controversial in that day and time. In fact, it's controversial in certain circles today because we all know that money is the root of all evil. Yes? Those of you who know better in the room, what's the root of all evil? It is the love of money. Money itself is neither here nor there. Money is simply a tool. Money is like a brick. You can destroy with it or you can build with it. I hope you're in the room tonight to build with the money that real estate can afford you. That's why we're here. So I want to pretty much take care of that little elephant before we go too much farther. In fact, he's pretty much the person who was sort of responsible for this faith-driven approach to wealth, using it on purpose and using it very responsibly. So I love this guy, John Wesley. Pretty much wanted to start with him. He's the guy who pretty much say, earn all you can, save all you can, and sit on the can. Okay, well, he didn't say sit on the can. He said, earn all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. That's a good use of the massive amounts of money that we can gain through real estate. He's the one who put wealth and righteousness together. Not a lot of theologians will do that. And he's the one who said, yes, go head on and attain wealth, use it on purpose. That's really the reason why we're in this room here tonight. Now, let's move on with some definitions. I don't want to assume anything in the room. We're going to start very basics and build from there. So let's move on. Let's say, and some of you in the room own one or more properties at this moment in time. Let's say that we all own a property, a single property, and that property has $100,000 of equity in it. Let me give you an example. Let's say the value of that home is $200,000, and let's say the mortgage is $100,000. Now, do you see where the $100,000 of equity comes from? It's taking the value of the home, the asset, what is valued at, minus how much you owe on that property. The remainder is the equity, $100,000. Let me ask you a question. How many of such homes would you need to become a millionaire? And the answer is 10, exactly, 10. So if you had 10 of such homes with $100,000 of equity in it, you have just stepped into millionaire status. We make millionaire like it's some huge thing, but it's something that everybody in this room can step into. In fact, I want you to step there. Can somebody say amen? Amen. All right, so it only takes 10 properties, not 100. 10 properties can get you to millionaire status. Isn't that unbelievable? Isn't that awesome? Can you see yourself owning 10 properties with $100,000 of equity? Then at that point, on that day, you become a millionaire. Awesome. Let's take another example. Let's say you own one property, and in that property, the equity is $167,000. Let me give you an illustration. Let's say the value of that home, the appraised value is $367,000. The mortgage on that property is $200,000. Now, can you see where the $160,000 of equity comes from? Okay, yes? No? Is there any no's in the room? I just want to make sure we know where we're going here. Great. Let me ask you a question. How many of such homes would you require to become a millionaire? Let's see, she got a calculator out. Awesome, girl. Go for it. This is why we're here. This is why we're here. How many of such homes would you need to become a millionaire? And the answer is exactly 6 homes. Exactly 6 homes. Here again, does it take 100 homes to become a millionaire? Does it take a portfolio of 100 doors to become a millionaire? No. In this scenario, all it took was 6. So in the 2 scenarios we looked at here, 6 to 10 homes is enough to step into millionaire status. Can you do it? Hopefully by the end of the day you can say, yes! With a little bit more excitement. Okay, so we're talking about wealth tonight. And I'll tell you about Larry Pendleton here. He's a CPA. I'm not expecting you all to be CPAs, but if you're running a business, you want to look at an income statement, you want to look at a balance sheet. Some of the strategies we look at are going to impact more your income statement. Some are going to impact more the balance sheet. Most of us have had or are currently in a W-2 job at this point in time. Even if you're doing fix and flips today, if you're doing wholesaling, if you're a money lender today, you're earning income. And you're earning money by the hour or by the year. That's where the income statement comes in. Is how much money have you made, say, for this year? If you look at this is actually an income statement here. Excuse me. It pretty much say on one side, this is how much money that we have earned for that year. This is the amount of debts or expenses that we had. And the bottom line then becomes, in this case, this is the income, this is the expensive, that becomes the gross income. So this is a pretty much small business at this point, making $33,000 for that business for that particular year. Here we're talking about the income statement. Are you okay on that? You don't have to necessarily know everything about an income statement, but tonight's subject matter is not going to be talking about the income statement. Tonight's subject matter is pretty much talking about the balance sheet, because on the balance sheet, that's how you determine your wealth. That's where your business can determine the value of it. This way you can determine how much money you actually have over here on the balance sheet. And that's where the buy and hold real estate strategy really helps you out. And that's where you're going to pay attention to your balance sheet, because it's your balance sheet that's going to determine when you enter into millionaire status. On one part of your balance sheet, and if I'm going too fast, halt me, or if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll answer the questions as we go along. Okay, fair? All right. And this goes a whole lot better if you respond. So when I ask questions, respond, please. So this is the balance sheet. The balance sheet is pretty much saying, what are your assets? How much money you have in cash in the bank? How many rental properties do you own? Assets. How much do you own? On the other side of the equation is going to say, how much do you owe? For those assets, for instance, your real estate properties, you may have some mortgages on those. Those are going to be your expenses or your debts. So your assets minus your liabilities will equal then the equity that you own, or that's going to be the amount of wealth that you own at that period of time. And this can change from day to day. This can change from week to week. This can change from month to month. I know you may only do this once or twice a year, but you can determine what is the value of your wealth at any period of time by looking at what? The balance sheet, not the income statement. So we're going to be looking a lot at the balance sheet tonight. All right, enough of that. Those are definitions. Let's talk about what is possible. Wouldn't it be nice is that when your grandchildren turn 18, they're getting ready to go to college, wouldn't it be nice if they could go to your family office and get enough money to go to college on without getting a college loan? Would that be good or not? Would that be good or what? Would that be good? Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't it be awesome? I'm talking about what a family office is. A family office, a family can establish a family office when they have so much wealth that they want to manage that wealth and grow it from generation to generation to help each generation also to be able to give, charitable giving, and to do some good things in society. I didn't even know a family office existed until maybe about 5 years ago. I have a mentor out in Arizona, and he likes to go and get capital from family offices. Why? Because they have boatloads of cash. They have millions of dollars. And what I'm bringing to your attention is you and I can have the same thing. In fact, last Thanksgiving I got with my family, I said, we're setting up a family office. I'm just letting you know what's coming down the pike here. It's not established yet. In fact, I've got another, 10 months to establish this thing and legally put it into place. Something called a family office. Wouldn't it be nice if your grandkids, when they got married, wouldn't it be nice if they went to the family what and the family office gave them a home debt-free that they didn't pay for and do not have a mortgage on? Would that be good or bad? Somebody said that'd be great. That'd be awesome. Can you imagine what a young family can do if they're not saddled by a mortgage? If they've got this extra money, can you imagine what they could do? Can you imagine what kind of business they could run? Awesome. I'm just saying, what if? What if we could set up some sort of structure and have family legacy growing the wealth from generation to generation for a purpose? The scripture says a good man leaves an inheritance to 2 generations. How many good people in the room? Awesome. Then you want to get to the point where you built enough wealth to leave it to 2 generations. I like the Passion version of this scripture. It says a benevolent man or a good man leaves an inheritance that endures for at least 2 generations. Isn't that a good dream to have? Let's make that dream a reality. I'm just saying what is possible. This is possible through real estate. Let me tell you about one of my heroes. His name is Emilio Obasi. At 11 years old, he was an Italian immigrant. At 11 years old, his uncle in Pennsylvania over in America sent money over for his passageway from Italy over to America. He couldn't speak a word of English. So what they did was they stapled in English instructions for him as an 11-year-old boy come across the Atlantic instructions on how he was to get to his uncle's house. Can you imagine that? He made it to his uncle's house. He worked during the daytime to support himself. At night, he went to school to learn English. He would sell things during the daytime, and he noticed that people like roasted peanuts. So he set up himself a little business here at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. He got enough money together. He established himself some roasted peanuts that he sold. Emilio Oversee eventually became the owner of Planters Peanuts, which is the iconic name of peanuts around the entire world. In Suffolk, right here in this place right here, Planters Peanuts used to be the largest private employer in this city. Big Mama used to work for Planters. Lots of people in my neighborhood used to work for Planters Peanuts. When his wife died, and of course he became a multimillionaire. When his wife died, he put enough money together to establish a hospital here in Suffolk that still is here today. At the time, he called it Louis Oversee Hospital. It's now part of the Centera branch. I was born in Oversee Hospital. My tonsils were taken out in Oversee Hospital. My firstborn child was born in Oversee Hospital. Emilio is my hero because he came over here with nothing. Couldn't even speak English. To this place where the American dream is. And if an Italian immigrant could do that, can't we do that? Yes. There's more opportunity in America if we would just use it and do it. And that's what I want you guys here to do. So let's talk about this Millionaires Playbook. Let's get into this. We're talking about real estate tonight. Okay. Point number one, wealth is built twice. First way it's built is in your mind. The second way it's built is in your portfolio. What do I mean by that? You need to get a millionaire mindset. Because if you're thinking poverty thinking, if you're thinking I can't do this, this is why we come in here and we say, yes, I am a successful real estate investor. We're changing our thoughts, we're changing our heart, we're decreeing it, we're getting God to come on the scene to help us in our endeavors because he can do a whole lot more than we can do. Sets up favor for us, just awesome. All kinds of things begin to occur. To become a millionaire, you need to have the appropriate mindset that I can do this. I can do this. It doesn't matter what happened with my parents. It doesn't matter upstream. Some of you in the room are changing legacies from going down. I am one of them. I'm one of them. I'm changing the entire legacy of my family line. Poverty stops with me. It's not going any further. And we're turning this thing around, and you can too. First of all, you need a mindset, then you need a pretty good strategy. And the strategy with buy and hold real estate is you got to stop thinking short term. Now, there are lots of strategies, 3 major strategies in real estate investing. Flipping, wholesaling, that's more for short term and getting income now. Buy and hold, which is what we're talking about tonight, you have to start thinking long term because you're not going to get good returns immediately. So if you're going to put this strategy to work, and if you're going to implement this strategy, in fact, you should be working more than one, right? You should be working a strategy that brings in money now and money to support you long term, but definitely don't forget the long term because that's where this wealth is going to be built. I think you'll see that a little bit more as we go through some examples here tonight. You need to start thinking ownership more so than transactions. Wholesaling, that's a short-term transaction. Fix and flipping, that's a shorter term, less than a year transaction. When you talk about buy and hold, we're talking about multiple years here. And so in order for this to work for you, you've really got to change your mindset. That's the first place to start. And you need to start thinking in terms of systems and people that's going to help you pull this thing together. You need to get beyond, I need to do all this myself, okay? If you're going to get into buy and hold. All right, so let's talk about the 4 wealth engines. This is why I think this is the strategy that produces more millionaires than any other, because of these 4 wealth engines. Not 1, not 2, not 3 before them. Let's talk. First engine is leverage. And this thing is awesome. Do you realize you can buy a piece of property? You can buy property without paying the full amount for it. Isn't that awesome? That's awesome. Where else can you do that? This is awesome, awesome, awesome. Even if you're putting 20% down, which is an investor's down payment. Lots of strategies you can put 3% or 5% down, maybe 10%, maybe nothing down. But even if you're putting 20% down, you're controlling an asset that costs at least 5 times more than that. What other strategy allows you to do that? And we're going to put all 4 of these engines together, which is the reason why I think buy and hold is such an awesome strategy. Leverage. Any questions about leverage? Second engine, cash flow. You're making money while you're making money. This is awesome. What is cash flow? Cash flow is the difference between the rent that you're bringing in and the expenses going out. What's left is the cash flow. And this is what you want. You want as much cash flow as you can get. Sometimes you don't get a lot of cash flow up front and cash flow bills over the years, which is kind of nice. But you still want to look at strategy. You want to look at buy and hold strategies. I heard somebody say Burr here tonight, and that's my strategy of choice for buy and hold, because it helps you to get higher cash flow. We'll briefly talk about that tonight. On one of these months, we'll talk about the entire Burr strategy, but not tonight. We're talking about 4 wealth engines here and why buy and hold real estate helps you become a millionaire is by these 4 wealth engines multiplied by time. You want time to become your friend. You need to stop looking at time like, oh, this is taking too long. No, time is your friend. The longer you're in this strategy, the better it gets for you. I'm going to show you some charts later on to help you see that a little bit better. The third engine here is appreciation, and this one is awesome. This is why you don't have to be concerned about inflation, because buy and hold beats inflation. What is appreciation? It is the value of your property going up over time. Where else can you live in a property and it's still going up in value? You're using the property and yet it's still going up in value. Automobiles don't do that. Personal properties don't do that. But your own personal home will. That's awesome. And your rental properties, your investment properties do the same thing. Now, what if you multiply that by 10? Or multiply that by 20? Awesome, awesome. So the third engine here is appreciation. And finally, that fourth engine is debt pay down. Your tenants actually paying your mortgage off, not you. Your tenants are. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And we'll talk about tenants later on. This is awesome. So you put those 4 wealth strategies together and you multiply this by time. Again, the more time you have this working for you, the more money that you make, the wealthier you become. Any questions about those 4 wealth strategies? All right, and then you stack these together over decades. And somebody's saying, decades? Yes, decades. Let it work for you. The longer it works for you, the wealthier you become. I'll show you some charts later on. Let me show you how I saw this. Like I said, about 7 years ago, I got serious about real estate, changed my whole career, went full head on. The Lord was directing me in this direction. I was up in Northern Virginia at the time. I got, the Lord was just saying, go full in this thing. My first property was bought down here in Suffolk. I learned about fix and flipping. So in 2019, I was going back and forth between Northern Virginia and down here, sort of being the project leader for my fix and flip. Okay, so I bought that property here. I purchased for $147,000. I actually sold it January 2020. Before I sold it, I put $35,000 of renovation into it, sales and holding fees. There's some expenses in selling a property as a flip. So spent another $23,000 sales and holding costs. I was paying the mortgage down, so that was part of that expense. You've got to have electricity, utilities running, doing a fix and flip. This took me about 6 months to sell it, to improve the property and sell it. And so we set a sales price of $240,000 between the realtor and myself. We got the $240,000, and I made a whopping $35,000. Boy, I was skipping. I was dancing, boy, because why? I proved that fix and flip works. I proved that fix and flip. I proved that I can do a fix and flip, right? And I would have been happy making no money. Seriously, I've been happy making no money. I just wanted to make sure the strategy worked for me. I wanted to make sure I could do it. So I'd never done this before. First fix and flip. So I was ecstatic, $35,000. Up until I looked back on that property 3 years later, and I looked at how much money I could have made had I kept it. Now, I look back on this property. This property is now 6 years old. This was 6 years ago. So let's look at the 4 engines. Let's look at the engines again. Let's take a look at appreciation. I sold that property to a family for $240,000. 2 years later, that family sold that very same house for $307,000. They made $67,000 off the house. I made $35,000 out of the house. I wasn't so ecstatic anymore. The person I sold the house to made more money in it than I did. And they didn't do anything but what? Live in it. Man, that thing clicked in me. I said, shoot. But it didn't stop there. It was in 2022. In 2024, the house was valued at $357,000. This house has gone up in value $117,000. This house has gone up pretty much 50% in value. If you take the value of the house right now, it's $360,000. It went up $120,000 in those 6 years. It went up 50% in value in 6 years. I could have looked back on that and said, man, I should have kept that house. Too late. I sold the house, right? Any questions, comments? I'm okay. I'm okay. Because, see, the second house, I was planning on doing a flip for my second house. I'd already acquired the second house. I started to flip it, so I was working on renovating it. That's when I met my mentor out in Arizona. He was a big buy and hold guy. And so he taught me a strategy on how to do buy and hold. So I came back, and instead of flipping that house, I decided to keep it. It became my BRRRR. So what is BRRRR? We've been saying BRRRR 2 or 3 times tonight. Correct. Normally when you rent a property, you buy it and you rent it. You buy it fixed enough to put a tenant in there and you rent it. BRRRR says, don't take that strategy. You buy it, renovate it, almost like you do a flip, then you rent it. Then you refinance it to take your money out and you repeat the process. That's a BRRRR. And I found that BRRRR works. BRRRR helps you to get higher cash flow. It helps you get higher rents because the house is better. It's a better house. People are willing to pay more money for it. You're able to pull money out of the house, so now you can apply it to the next property. Awesome strategy. But I looked at this thing here this is now after 6 years, but I looked at it in 2023, and I looked back at it and I said, that made me think. But remember that in 2020, my new mentor kind of encouraged me to get into buy and hold. So that's when I didn't flip my second one. I started flipping. I met him. He said, hey, you might want to think about doing buy and hold. I switched my strategy. Instead of flipping it, I decided to keep it. So glad that I did, because I don't want to miss opportunities like this. Let me ask you a question. $35,000 over here, $250,000 over here. Which one would you prefer? It really depends. If you need the money, go for the right $35,000, right? Right? But if you're not desperate for that money, it's going to multiply itself. Do you realize $35,000 to $246,000 is 7 times the amount of $35,000, 7 times as much? We're not talking 7%. We're not talking 70%. We're talking about 7 times. That's how you build wealth. So that's appreciation. House went up $120,000. Appreciating wasn't the only thing. When I look back and look at the cash flow I could have made, have I kept that property and rented it out, I lost $49,000. That house was a printing machine. It printed money. That's what these properties do for us. You got to look at it like it is a machine printing money. That house would have produced, this is my first flip, my first flip would have produced $49,000 of cash flow for the next 6 years. You with me so far? I looked at the tax benefits because, you get depreciation by holding a property, right? I lost those depreciation tax benefits of $52,000 over 6 years. Are you with me so far? Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? I saw this after 3 years. Now, my first year in 2020, my mentor said, hey, you might want to think about buy and hold. I switched in just because he said, and I said, I'm going to try this. I was also listening to Bigger Pockets. They were talking about this burst strategy. It's okay. I'm already in a burst strategy, right? Because I bought it, I renovated it. Next step is to rent it. And guess what? I pulled money out too. The burst strategy definitely did work. Tax benefits. Mortgage pay down. The mortgage went down $25,000 over 6 years. How much money did I potentially could have gained? $246,000. Awesome, man. Are y'all seeing this? Are you seeing this? Now, I am not disparaging flipping. I'm not disparaging wholesale because I still do both. What I'm saying is you might want to think about buy and hold too. Buy and hold is not going to make you money up front. But if you've got the discipline, because I look back over this as 6 years, man, good gracious. Look at how much money I could have gained. I only lost that gain once. Not doing it anymore. Because I'm keeping the properties. So we're looking at the Millionaires Playbook. All right, so what do you do in the Millionaires Playbook? We've changed our thinking now. We're thinking long term. We're looking at a strategy that's going to build wealth, which is buy and hold. What else we're going to do? We're going to buy properties right. We're not just going to go to MLS and buy anything and then rent it. Most likely it's not going to make much cash flow. But we're going to think smart. We're going to buy as low as we possibly can. We're going to try to buy off market if we can. We're going to finance it wisely. These are some of the things that a millionaire is going to think. You're going to choose the right strategy. I see some have already talked about the burst strategy in here, and that's my preferred strategy for buy and hold. You're going to let this thing stabilize. In the beginning, you got to get a tenant in there. You may have some repairs. You just want to get it to the point where it runs by itself. It just prints money. You want to get to that point. You want to have some sort of management strategy. What are you going to do if you have repairs? What are you going to do if the tenant leaves, right? So you need some systems in place. And you make me in mind, I'm going to hold these things. I'm not going to sell these. I'm not going to get it out quick. And you're going to reinvest some of your money. Yes? Yeah, that's a good question. Let's talk about property management. There are a couple of ways you can go with property management. You can manage it yourself, or you can outsource management. And that's pretty much your choice. I personally tend to do it in-house. But I know a lot of investors who don't want the headache, don't want to deal with tenants, don't want to deal with toilets, don't want to deal with turnover. Perfectly fine. Hands off. You don't have to deal with it. That's really passive, or it's getting closer to passive when you're not really involved. To answer your question? It's your choice. You choose. Okay. Yes?
Back to the appreciation of the house.
Can you talk louder?
Back to the
appreciation. Yes.
Who determines the appreciation? Is it the county or the market?
What really is the number is what somebody's willing to pay for it and what mortgage company is willing to put a mortgage on it. So really is the value of a house is really what somebody's willing to buy it for. Now, in the absence of somebody buying the house, you can use things like Zillow. You can do appraisals, because if you're going to refinance a mortgage, you're going to put an equity, going to put a HELOC on or something like that, then an appraisal may be required. So, appraisal is a better indication of what the value is. But when you actually sell the house, that tells you the real value of the house. What makes a strong buy and hold? Good cash flow. Hopefully a good neighborhood. Good demand for rent. You want good rents. You don't want your rents going down. You want your rents going up if possible. And it would be nice to have multiple exit strategies if you need to get out or want to get out for whatever reason. Okay. And then you want to be able to buy these. You want to look at the ways you're going to buy these. Traditional ways of buying, I personally like creative financing, so I'm looking for some creative way to buy it wherever I can. You can't always use creative ways, so you use traditional banks or lending institutions. We've already talked about Burr in here before. You may want to work with private lenders. You may want to work with capital investors, somebody else in the room and partner together, somebody with money, somebody with skills, somebody with a deal. And that's what's good about this room. You don't necessarily have to have all of those things yourself. Yes. 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 Pretty much you said the word joint venture. So it's like having a capital investor and, say, a managing investor. Say you got the deal, you found the deal, you want to manage the property, you want to rehab the property, whereas you're working with a capital investor, somebody with some money. So you guys joint venture together and you jointly own the property. I do that. It's one way to get more properties. So, you could say, well, I don't have enough money to buy the next property. Well, partner with somebody. It's an option. It's an option. Or you can just save up the money and wait. Yes? Creative finance is something like buying a sub-2. I love sub-2, wherever I can do it. Can't always do that. Sub-2 is pretty much say, I'm going to agree to pay the existing mortgage instead of getting a new mortgage at 6%. I would like to acquire the property and agree to pay your 3% mortgage. Boy, I love that. So it's like sub-2. Or you might say, I want to buy it with seller financing. Instead of a bank financing, get seller financing. Some sellers will finance their property to you. I jump on that. If a seller's willing to do that, of course, the deal has to be a good deal, right? It has to be better than what you can get from a lending institution. All right, some of the common pitfalls is chasing shiny objects. I know one particular investor who uses that term because he knows he does that. Every time you go to a REIA, you hear something new. Oh yeah, that's neat, sweet, I want to do that. At some point in time, you got to put your feet down and you got to say, I'm going with this strategy here. I know there are a lot of other sexy things I can do, but I'm going to go with some bread and butter. I'm going to go with something that I know works. Stop chasing shiny objects. Some people over leverage, shouldn't do that. And some people underestimate how amount of time this takes. This does take a little time. You do need to be patient. I like the word discipline. You need to be disciplined with buy and hold, right? We're talking about buy and hold tonight. You need to be disciplined. This does take some time, but it benefits you over the long haul. This is a long-term strategy. This is not a short-term strategy. So if you have no patience, you have no discipline, well, this strategy is just not going to work for you. I just know that there are benefits to working this strategy here. So let's talk about this thing we didn't want to talk about. We didn't want to talk about tenants. How many people like tenants? I ain't got but one hand in here, 2, 3. Go ahead. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Why do you like tenants? Since you raised your hand, why do you like tenants? When they pay the rent, that's right. We love them when they pay. Yeah, they help you pay your mortgage, right? They have to pay the mortgage on their rental property. That's why we like tenants, right? Who else said they like tenants? Yes. You like it? That's right, as they pay your mortgage. Anybody else? Why? Who likes tenants? Yeah, right. Which means you want good tenants, right? Which means you need to put a system in place to find good tenants instead of just taking anybody you can get, right? You got to have some systems in place to get good tenants because they don't just come. You look in there, check out their backgrounds, and you can do all of that and still miss it, still miss something, and still end up with a terrible tenant who wants to take you to court. Been there, done that. Do everything you can do, and it's still, however, over the long haul, right? Even if you miss something with that particular tenant, they're not going to be there forever. Get some good tenants in there and keep them. Man, I like good tenants. They thank you when you make repairs. You know, I had to change my whole attitude about repairs, and I think why I had a bad attitude about repairs. I know why I had a bad attitude. It's because I was running the Burr strategy, which means I'm renovating everything. I don't expect any repairs for years. However, when they do still show up, after a while. The other thing is, because I'm just talking about me, because I was running the Burr strategy, I really didn't put any money aside in reserves. because I didn't expect any repairs. Wrong. I have a property management friend who runs a property management company. He's the one who taught me the value of keeping reserves. I had read this in books, heard it on Bigger Pockets, said to set reserves aside. I never did it. Never did it. And that's why I dread it every time there's a repair. I'm at the point now where I appreciate the system. You just have to have a system in place to know that repairs are going to come. You want to keep that property looking good, right? You want to keep the value of that property going up over time, right? You want to appreciate, right? You're going to have to repair it. So just take the attitude. I'm going to repair this property. When repairs come up, I have a system in place. I'm documenting requests for repairs. I'm doing the repairs. I'm documenting all this. I've got a system to work with my tenant to make sure repairs are done. And I have reserves set aside so that when they come. The other thing they have to say is having a good handyman, having good contractors that you can trust, that you know is going to do a good job and do it right the first time and not charge you an arm and a leg. That helps a whole lot. We got good contractors to work with. So you need some systems in place here to help you with the tenants, the toilets, and the turnover. And now you can have a good attitude about buy and hold. Does that make sense? I had to learn this. Seriously. I hated repairs until very recently. And I realized, man, I need reserves. I already had good contractors. You need good contractors. And guess what? I use AI because I still do the small repairs. You know, I use ChatGPT for every time a repair comes up that I'm not really familiar with, and he always tells me a way to get it done quickly, right the first time. It doesn't even cost a lot of money. Awesome. Awesome. I have a whole new attitude about making repairs. Questions, comments before we go on? This is the work behind the wealth. Yes? Yeah. Yeah.
I used to be one of your on Facebook marketplace.
Yeah.
My mindset was, let me just put a Band-Aid over it.
Yeah.
Then I have to shift my mindset to say, no, that's going to cause more headache.
Yeah.
Long run.
You're thinking long term.
Buy a whole new one.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
be happy and it will last longer.
Yeah. Did you hear what you said? He shifted his thinking for just doing the repair, just get it done, get rid of this headache for the minimal cost. He's thinking long term now. If I put a new appliance in there, it's going to last much longer. He's thinking long term. And we got to make that shift at some point in time. I got to tell you what, this is going to make you a millionaire. These properties are going to make you a millionaire. So you might as well maintain them and keep them running smoothly. Yes?
Is it possible to use repairs as a tax deductible?
Yeah, they do. Tax repairs are tax deductible to you because when you run this like a business, yeah. And so we always, shall I say always? In most cases, you want to set up an LLC to run your real estate out of, and then you can take advantage of all the tax deductions associated with it. All right, let's move on. Okay, tennis toilets. All right, change my whole attitude. Let's talk about a few examples here. Let's talk about Grant Cardone. How many know about Grant Cardone? Yeah. I've been with Grant Cardone a little while now, and I know when he first came to fame being a top salesperson, top salesman. The first thing that made him famous was that he was one of the top salesmen really in America. He's the one who came up with the 10X rule. How many of you in the room know what the 10X rule is? Basically, what is the 10X rule?
10X is accelerating quicker and being hyper-focused. That's what
Awesome. I remember he was doing those conferences, he'd be asking all the people, what does 10X mean to you? Everybody have a different answer. Anybody else, what does 10X mean?
What I remember, it was setting your goals 10 times past what you want. So say I want $1 million, set my goal at $10 million.
Yeah.
If I fall short of 10,
Yeah.
I met my actual goal of 1.
Still gonna make that million, right? 10X goal. The reason why he came to fame is because he was willing to do 10 times the work of the other top salespeople in the organization. He was just willing to do 10 times as much work. If they were going to call 1,000 clients, he's going to call 10,000 clients. And he didn't bat an eye at it. He just said, I'm going to outwork them. I'm going to outwork them. And obviously he had better results because he worked 10 times harder. So Grant Cardone, he came to fame because he was the top salesperson. He built his whole company around sales training and consulting for other companies, but then he made this pivot into buy and hold real estate. You don't even hear him talk about sales, being a top salesman anymore, even though he runs still sales training. All you hear him talk about now is buy and hold real estate. He made that pivot here because being a top salesman caused him to earn a lot of money, but it built him no wealth. And he came to that conclusion and he made a pivot. He realized that ownership of properties is what builds wealth. Income created a better lifestyle for him. So in the late 90s, mid 2000s, his income was somewhere between $1 and $5 million at its peak as a top salesperson. His net worth was somewhere around $5 or $10 million. He considered himself very successful. Everybody looked at him, considered him very successful, but he wasn't building lasting wealth. When he made this pivot here, he redirected his money, all the surplus he was making, he started buying buy and hold real estate on the side. And then he got into large multifamily apartment complexes. That's pretty much all he talks about now. And he built a company, Cardone Capital, around syndications, something that you and I can partner with him on. Today, let's talk about today. From 2010 on up to the present, this dude has 12,000 plus apartment units, valued at somewhere between $4 to $5 billion with a B. We're not talking millions anymore. He's up to the billions now, and his net worth is upwards of $600,000, probably a billion plus. And that didn't happen. That did not happen through sales training. That did not happen from him becoming a top salesperson. How did that come? How did he gain his wealth? She said it at the top of the room right there. He made his wealth. He made his income through being a top salesperson. He built his lasting wealth for his family and generations to come through buy and hold real estate. Grant Cardone. Well, all of us can't be a Grant Cardone. What can we be? All of this, everybody in this room can be a slow millionaire. Let me show you how this works. If you look at most of the millionaires in America, you wouldn't even realize they're a millionaire because they don't flaunt their money. There could be a millionaire living next door to you and you don't know it. Why? Because they don't drive flashy cars. They're not famous. Nobody knows them. They're not on TV. They don't have some great skill. They don't have some great athletic skill. Most millionaires in America made their money slowly. They're ordinary people just like you and me, but they had consistent investing over a long period of time. Anybody can do this, including you. So let's look at a scenario here. Let's say that someone like you are making a W-2 income. Let's say you have no inheritance coming down to you. Let's say you're not getting any extravagant deals, no really great deals. Let's say you started later in life than what you would have, and I think all of us fit in that category. All of us wish, man, if I had started in my 20s, but you won't think it this way in your 20s. You didn't have that kind of wisdom in your 20s, right? All of us wish we had started sooner. You're no guru, you're a regular investor. Let me show you how this is done. Even if you just bought one rental property every 3 years, just one, not three, not buy one a year, not buy two a year. Let's take a scenario, you're going to buy one rental property every 3 years. Let's say you decide to hold it long term. You're going to use a conventional conservative financing. You're going to reinvest the cash flow, okay? And you're never going to sell it. That shows what happened. Years 1 through 9, let's say you do this for 9 years. You will gain how many properties? 3 properties, right? You buy one every 3 years. Let's say the average purchase price is somewhere around $180,000. Is that realistic? Yes, it's realistic. You buy a property at $180,000. And let's say you have modest appreciation. Not 10% a year, just modest appreciation. 4 or 5% appreciation. And let's say your cash flow is somewhere around $300 to $400 a month per property. That's realistic, right? That's not huge or extravagant. All right, let's continue this scenario. After 9 years, you'll have 3 properties, your cash flow is $1,000 a month, and your net worth is now $150,000 to $200,000. Nothing extravagant, nothing to write home to mom about. You've gained $150,000 to $200,000 of wealth. You got cash flow of $1,000 a month. You got 3 properties, right? It's kind of ho-hum, right? What if you have some patience in this? Let's look at the next 9 years. Let's look at years 10 through 18. You're doing the same thing. You're buying 1 property every 3 years. How many properties do you have now? 6 properties at the 18 years. I say it takes some patience, all right? Let's say you continue to do the same thing. Rents are gradually increasing, which is kind of nice. Guess what? Your mortgages are going down over time. It's working for you. What happens after 18 years now? You've done this for 18 years, 6 properties. Now your cash flow is up to $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Okay, that's kind of sexy. Yeah, I got some printed money coming in every month, to the tune of $3,000 or $4,000. It's starting to make a little sense now. It's looking a little better, But look at your net worth. It's now up to $500,000 to $700,000. You're not a millionaire yet, but you own your way. And all you're doing is buying a property every 3 years. These are real numbers. Let's take the next years 19 through 30, okay? And let's say you get up to 10 properties. Remember, we began in the beginning. We said with 10 properties, you can become a millionaire. We said if you bought right, you're handling it right, you can become a millionaire at 6 properties. This person here now has 10 properties. And now he's kind of slowing down his acquisition. Now he's putting his money into paying off those mortgages. What happens to the first property after 30 years? Doesn't exist anymore. That's beautiful then. Why is that beautiful? Because your cash flow goes through the roof. All the money, all the rent that comes in is now yours. Minus repairs, stuff like that. But you don't have to pay a mortgage anymore. That's pretty cool. So what happens at the year 30? You now have 10 properties. Some of them are free and clear. Cash flow is now up to $10,000 a month. It's kind of nice, isn't it? Can you live off $10,000 a month here in Hampton Roads? Kind of, sort of, yeah. I could live off $10,000 down here. And listen, the net worth is now $1.2 to $2.5 million. And guess what? You're not eating into that. It's not like your 401k that you got to live on because your rental properties is still printing money at $10,000 a month. You're not even touching your properties. Isn't that awesome? I think that's kind of awesome. Do y'all think that's awesome? Yes. That you got $10,000 coming in a month and you're not even touching your assets. It's continuing to grow. This is called generational wealth. Taxes are good. All those 4 engines are working for you. You've gotten rid of the mortgage, so one of those already taken care of. To me, it's kind of awesome. Let's skip that one. Okay, example number 3. I like this guy here. How many know Brandon Turner? How many go back to Bigger Pockets days? You younger guys may not know much about him because he don't come on very much anymore, but he started at age 20. He's my hero. I like this guy. And this is what the exponential curve looks like. How many mathematicians in the room who know what the exponential curve is and what it represents? 1, 2 people. Exponential curve is a phenomenon that says a lot of things follow this phenomenon. Pretty much when you're starting something new, it goes pretty slow and ho-hum. And so it takes a lot of time to get some progress. After a while, you get some momentum going. Once momentum kicks in, it gets much easier to operate it, and you start getting better results out of it. And your results pretty much goes through the roof. This thing about buy and hold real estate operates pretty much like the exponential curve. So let's use Brandon Turner and look at the exponential curve and how it works. So he's a former host of Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets is the podcast that talks more about real estate than just about anybody. He started at age 20. He did go to college. I think he got a job at a bank, hated that job. And so he learned about real estate investing, started doing some investing in real estate on the side. He eventually quit the job and just kind of went full-time in this real estate investing thing, and then also on Bigger Pockets talking about it. At age 30, 10 years later, he had gotten up to 44 doors, 12 properties, so he was into multifamily. He added a few each year. He managed them himself with his wife. This is after 30 years. He was like the office manager. He managed the contractors, managed professionals. And he said, out of his own words, real estate investing contributed to the lifestyle that he desired. He was able to design the lifestyle he wanted, travel when he wanted, raise his family the way he wanted. He was just enjoying life, building his real estate empire. This is after 10 years. He became a millionaire after 10 years. He was valued at a little bit less than $2 million. He had financial freedom. Out of his own words, he could live the lifestyle that he wanted. He could have the kind of future for his family that he wanted. And this exponential curve was working in his favor. We're talking 10 years down the road here. He's making some progress. He's not at the beginning anymore. If you have enough patience and discipline, you'll get there. At this point, he was a millionaire. The story doesn't stop there. Brandon Turner is now 42 years old. He has sold over $1 million worth of books. He started Open Door Capital. His portfolio is now up to $1 billion at age 42. Now he gets to do anything he wants to do with his life. And guess what? He is taken off here, and he hasn't even gotten up to there yet. He's put a system in place that kind of works. Questions? Questions? So tonight we talk about 4 paths there. We talk about my example of when that epiphany came, looking back after 3 years and saying, man, dog, I should have kept that property. Well, hindsight, you can't change the decision you've already made, but you can make decisions in the future based on what you learned, and that's what I did. We also looked at the slow millionaire, consistency over 30 years, became a millionaire. We looked at Brandon Turner, consistency over 22 years. Look at what he's done. And then we looked at Grant Cardone, where he changed his mentality from working for income, I'm making a lot of income, but I'm not really building anything that's lasting. He don't even talk about sales training anymore, even though he still has a sales training company. All you hear him talking about today is buy and hold real estate and trying to get you to partner with him in buy and hold real estate. So we've talked about 4 paths tonight. We talked about 1 strategy, long-term buy and hold, which builds wealth. That's the presentation for tonight. However, you have to realize that this takes some time. And if you've got the discipline, it'll work for you. Any questions about the presentation tonight? Let me tell you what we're going to do next month. Next month, we've got Dustin Overson coming on next month. He's going to talk about fix and flipping. Why are we going to talk about fix and flipping? Because one of those strategies that helps you create income so you can put some of that into buy and hold. Dustin typically does 50 flips a year. Do you think you can learn something from him? You need to be here. I want to know what his systems look like, because you can't do 50 flips by yourself. I want to know what his systems look like. How is he able to consistently do this? And he's a relatively new guy in this himself, but he's built a system here that's kind of working. So he'll be here next month, talk about fix and flip. The month after that, we'll be talking about wholesaling, because wholesaler can also produce cash for you today that if you want to, you can put some of this into buy and hold. And then in April, we'll be talking about funding, because it does take money to buy properties. Have you noticed that? They don't give them to you for free. They just don't do that. Any questions about the presentation here tonight? It's been a great bunch. You've asked some good questions. Go ahead.